Welcome back to Ryan Lisa. It's probably going to sound different every single time I say that. Anyways, we read RPG horror stories, and as of October 31st, which I feel like I keep forgetting to put this into my videos, I'm going to be doing a Area 51 video. It's going to be different, and I really hope you'll enjoy it. Possibly after that, it might be some ocean horror, folklore type stuff. Possibly. Not saying exactly yet. Anyways, if y'all want to help support this channel and continue these videos, then please look down in my description. I do have a Patreon. I also have an Etsy that I just randomly put stuff on when I'm feeling creative, which I don't usually feel creative. It's just there. No worries. And I got some Amazon links down there too. So if y'all, want anything that I use, yep. Anyways, okay, so my brain just broke. RPG horror story. So today's RPG horror story was given permission to be read by Do Afternoon 5411 on Reddit, and it is thus named. I accepted being a slave and, unsurprisingly, was treated like one. The story I'm about to share may be long, but it was my very first tabletop RPG experience that introduced me to the game and made me understand how it works. Well, if this is your very first one, I'm so sorry, because this is not the best way, according to that title, to really learn D&D. It all began in 2020, when I was 15 years old. Oh my gosh, 15 in 2020? I feel old. And my phone just went off twice. Let's shut that off. Okay. And drowning in the emptiness of teenage depression. Yep, we all went through that. I spent hours watching live streams to pass the time, and one of the creators I followed was a famous Brazilian content creator known as Selbit. His name kind of sounds familiar. The series Paranormal Order introduced tabletop RPGs to an entire generation of Brazilians. Many of my friends who now play TRPGs owe it to that show. Through this, I met a classmate I'll call Henry. I was the quiet outcast in school, always dressed in black, head down, unable to talk to others. Henry was my opposite. Tall, cheerful, extroverted. He noticed my Ordum Paranormal shirt one day, and after hours of conversation, we became friends. Months later, he revealed that he wanted to run his own RPG campaign. I encouraged him wholeheartedly. He spent weeks preparing and eventually asked me to roleplay an NPC. At first I was reluctant. He was inviting other friends I barely knew, and I feared the discomfort of strangers. Understandable. It took me a while to get over the role-playing aspect. But after some insistence, I agreed. The character was Boris Sibiryakov. Hopefully I said that right. A 70-year-old man who had spent 5 decades enslaved by snow mercenaries. So, that's her character? Or their character? I don't know why I said her. Their character? Okay, that's kind of... I always think the old characters are funny. His backstory was tragic. As a young man, he witnessed his peaceful community massacred by raiders. He alone was spared, condemned to slavery for life, forced to bear witness to cruelty and malice in the hearts of men. Years later, his captors launched an expedition to find a legendary utopia known as the Greenland. During a violent storm, their vessel was destroyed, and amid the chaos, Boris glimpsed the mythical land and felt sunlight on his skin for the first time. He washed ashore alive, with one final wish, to feel the sun again before death. Henry's world was a frozen post-apocalyptic wasteland inspired by Fallout New Vegas. I love Fallout! Survivors lived in isolated communes or roamed as scavenger gangs. The table was composed of Henry as DM and 4 players, me and 3 of his longtime friends, Chris, Peter, and Andrew. Chris played the stoic leader type. Peter, however, played a sadistic assassin, delighting in weaker people. Henry, eager to create a dark game, gave them no limits. Peter vividly described home invasions and killings, even implying SA violence in one scene until Chris intervened. Andrew, a surgeon fascinated by anomalies, mutants gifted with powers from the gods who had destroyed the world, often performed cruel medical tortures. We were just teenagers and thought gore and brutality equaled mature storytelling. When the group needed a slave... Wait, so those three are looking for a slave, and that's how they were introduced to Boris, confused, frightened, yet insisting he had seen the Greenland. His purpose was to help them reach it and die under the sun before illness claimed him. At first he was useful, unlocking doors to free Andrew, protecting Chris in battle, even caring for Peter when his dark bloodlust got out of hand. Those days were enjoyable. After sessions, we'd eat pizza and theorize about the story. I even became close friends with Chris outside the game. That's cool. But obviously we know how this story ends. It's on RPG Horror Stories. But as the story progressed, things soured. Boris's heart condition often forced him to pause, giving me mechanical disadvantages in checks. He already carried penalties from his old age, cataracts, and stiff joints. Still, these flaws made sense narratively. Other characters had weaknesses too. Peter was vulnerable to magic. Andrew lacked strength and charisma. But Boris's condition threatened actual death or fainting, and eventually it defined him. The turning point came with the death of Anne? I know in some places the R are kind of ignored. Anne, maybe? I'll just say Anne. A beloved NPC anomaly. Charismatic and gifted with storm powers, she was so respected that even Andrew treated her kindly. She was a kind of hero in that world, made for you to sympathize with. But during a chaotic fight, Boris accidentally shot her. The funeral scene was somber, being the first altruistic action of the group. Then the party's grief transformed into resentment towards Boris. From then on, he was no longer treated as a companion, but as a true slave. I wasn't allowed to act in combat, speak freely, or impact the plot. My role shrank to carrying burdens and being humiliated. Peter, always hostile, now had justification to torment Boris openly, threatening to eat his heart or staging shameful, cruel scenes, while Chris and Andrew looked away. I confronted Henry, but he brushed it off, acting as expected. Boris is a dying slave who killed their friend. The old, it's a cruel world, so be cruel defense. So I stopped to think, what would Boris do then? After decades of abuse and his dream of seeing the sun were central to his story, letting him waste away under the cruelty of others felt meaningless, not just for him, but for me as a player. As a mechanic, Boris had access to skills others don't. I secretly sabotaged the group's weapons, sending Henry a private message. He accepted with an uncertain smile and look. Only Andrew suspected something, but he failed his perception check. That night, when all the characters slept, I declared, DM, I want to sneak into Andrew's tent. What followed was chaos. I struck first, injuring Andrew. The fight escalated into a shootout, but with their weapons sabotaged, I had the advantage. Chris and Peter died. Andrew was left unconscious. I hadn't intended to kill Chris, but a bullet is hard to control. Boris fled on horseback, determined to find the Greenland on his own. Everyone was stunned. We were near the end of the campaign, and suddenly 2 characters were killed. Even Henry seemed unprepared. Peter asked, "Dude, why did you do that?" I gave a dry laugh and answered that Boris simply did what he would have done. We argued briefly, Henry remaining silent. The campaign went on a hiatus so he could adjust. Eventually it resumed with new characters, but I was not invited back. Boris faded into obscurity, never mentioned again. I didn't take offense. Looking back, we were just kids. We wanted to tell dark, serious stories that lacked the maturity to balance cruelty with meaning. But despite these issues, I genuinely enjoyed the campaign. Henry has improved as a DM, I promise. I think the sabotaging is kind of funny. I also, obviously, I don't really condone PvP, but I guess Henry allowing them to treat them like a slave was kind of PvP. So I'm always a little, I don't like PvP because even in games, they just piss me off. They piss me off. Okay. Anyways. So, what do you think about this one? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Like, as I've said before, I kind of just look at the title. I definitely do not read because I want to be surprised just as much as you are as you're listening to it. So, I generally wait. So, let me know what you think down in the comments and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. And I will see you next time. Bye.